It's that time again for another edition of the Gospel Cast, and our special guest today, well, he is the most eligible bachelor in Christian missiology today. And we'll put him out there because he told me that he would no longer be a vegetarian. He would, in fact, eat meat if I find him a wife. That'll happen on today's show, maybe. His name's Jordan Whitmer. He leads the HowToLife movement. We're going to get into it today right after this. Welcome to the Faith to Faith Gospel Cast, where we talk about all things related to God, faith, missions, leadership, side hustles, and what Jesus is doing in the next generation. I'm your host, Tommy Ashiro, and I want to welcome you to the program. If you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button and come back for a new episode each week. With all that said, let's jump into today's episode. Jordan, you have graced my house, desecrated my house. I don't know what. I mean, this is, what is this, your third visit to my home? I
think so.
Third visit.
One, about two more than preferable, but.
You've got a good radio voice, man. It's so deep. It's crispy.
I'm happy to. It's your equipment, and I don't know.
we should have him do all of our intro liners,
we should have him do the next week on the Gospel Cast.
Yeah, because that voice, it's like, oh yeah, or tune into 94.9 for smooth jazz. Say smooth jazz. Say smooth jazz.
Smooth jazz.
Oh my gosh, that is a voice. I didn't know you had this talent. I never heard you in headphones like this.
Yeah. Well, you must not be listening to my podcast then.
No. I have listened to your podcast. I'm just saying that I never noticed it in this way with surround sound. It's very good. Very good voice for radio.
Thank you.
Has anybody told you have a good face for radio?
That I know that joke, and I'm sure you got that in the 20th century, just like most of your life. But
well, see, I think I'd have a hard time finding jokes that you don't know, considering that even though you're 26-year-old, you're like an 88-year-old trapped in a 26-year-old body.
I mean, if you're waking up at 4:30 a.m. Eastern time like me every day, it can become a little bit problematic. I tell people, though, I prefer people say, well, what generation do you really feel like? Or some people are like, oh, you're just an old soul. I'm like, I don't like that term. I prefer the term timeless.
Timeless.
Yeah.
Ancient of days. No. I feel like you're going in the wrong direction with that. Putting yourself on level with God is...
I didn't say that. I just said timeless.
Also omnipresent and also inerrant. Oh, I'm very uncomfortable with the direction of this conversation.
Wow.
But Jordan, it is an honor to have you here. And we've been friends for a long time, busting each other's chops. But... truthfully, from day one, when you made me the chaperone at that first HowToLife retreat, so much of my education on Gen Z and reaching the next generation, you've really schooled me. Even though I've been doing it for 25, 26 years, I've learned a lot about the next generation from you. So I have to thank you for that publicly. I don't view any of the things, even the small wins that I get, as fully owning it by myself. I've had to have a lot of help understanding. And I do wonder, because you are so young and you have all this information, but you also have this expanding global experience, what special sauce had to come together to make all these components of who you are? So I want to dive deep into some of that and really try and understand you. So I do know for a fact that you are from good ministry stock. I always knew that from day one. That's why I engaged you right away, because I knew of your ancestors. I mean, your relatives.
My grandfather.
Okay, but it is kind of an ancestor.
Grandpa.
Ron Hutchcraft. And if you see this, you're a legend. I've looked up to you since I was Jordan's age. Not 88, 26, 20, probably a little younger, 23. Your granddad has been doing it well for a very long time. So that part's not a surprise, that you understand ministry. And actually, I've known your dad for probably 20 years too, and serving at Hutchcraft. So you've got your generation three, I guess. Was there generations before Ron that was in ministry, or?
It's 3 generations through him. I have other family lines that go back like 4, 5, 6 generations of believers and
Whoa.
family. I just don't talk about them as much.
So, Jordan, you were saying 6 generations of ministry from a different line. Can you summarize?
Yeah, and even farther back in some lines, and I'm a bit of an ancestry nerd, so I'm not going to go into all of it, but the one that really sticks out to me the most was, and this is cool to people who are familiar with some of the modern missions movements, things and such, my 6th great-grandfather, so I guess that's 8 generations back on one side, was one of the first ever missionaries to the frontier in Ohio and early on America, and he would have been what, in hindsight, we call circuit riders. So one of the people who rode on horseback and preached the gospel from town to town. His name was Joseph Badger, and faithful missionary. I've read his memoir biography that he wrote, and that was a real inspiration to go through that and just hear about his day to day in the journals that were published. And I mean, I already knew I had family that had come before, but that was a real encouragement. And then in more recent years, like both my mom and dad's side, I know on my dad's side, I have there's some like Norwegian family history, and they were really, really passionate about the gospel. And I've just heard, and they produced like a bunch of ministry people in their family, and had a great aunt who became a full-time missionary to Africa for like 40 years. And I got to know her at the end of her life. And so just some real inspiring stuff, in addition to my grandfather, Ron Hutchcraft, who has spent a lifetime in ministry, in cross-cultural youth ministry, and wanting to just really reach the lost and train people in evangelism and mission. And that's kind of the family I grew up in, was just knowing that we love the Lord. Jesus has been good to our family, and we want to help others hear the gospel and find Christ. And that's just been the bedrock that my life's been built upon. And your family can love Jesus, absolutely, but it comes down to each and every individual to say, are you going to live for Jesus? And it's sad sometimes, great Christian families, their kids want nothing to do with Christ, and then some kids who find Christ don't have Christian families. And when you do have all that lines up, though, it can be really inspiring and encouraging. And I'm very grateful to parents and grandparents and family that love the Lord, and for the blessing it is to serve Jesus now alongside some of them as well.
Yeah. So what do you think has made that work for your family? Because, I mean, we can't go back generations and like unpack that.
Yeah.
But at least in terms of your immediate family, like your siblings love the Lord. Nobody's fallen off the truck just yet. Yeah. I wonder about you sometimes, but so far intact. But like, what do you think's going on there that makes it work? Do you think it's just good spiritual genetics, or what? Like, why? How come your family's so strong?
Sure. I mean, I do think there's something, biblically speaking, to multi-generational blessing and ministry and that type of thing that can be true. I hesitate to lean into that too much, because I genuinely believe that each and every person can decide for themselves and say, look, like, because maybe a lot of people don't come from Christian families, and but they can say it stops with me, and moving forward for them and their descendants, they want to serve the Lord. As for me and my house, will serve the Lord. And I think there's a lot of other random factors that go into it, just kind of having a culture of openness and creativity, but also firmness and core belief. And I know my parents just had an interesting mix of all that, and with how they raised me. And we talk about that a lot, and we don't always have concrete answers for what they did right and what they did wrong. And I know for a parent, that's really important. I'm not a parent yet, so I don't wake up thinking about parenting every day.
And yet you're parenting so many in Gen Z all over the place.
Sure. And so in that sense, it is very much a sense of, I think, across the board, it's giving people space to grow, but then encouraging them, pointing them to Christ, helping them really encounter the Lord in a genuine way, and experiencing, because my family took me along with them on their summer missions trips every summer.
I see.
And we got to see firsthand just some powerful life change, people coming to Christ, the gospel going forth. And we're like, we've seen God change lives with our own eyes. We want that for our lives.
Yeah, that might be part of the secret, actually, is like that missioning together as a family.
Absolutely.
I mean, like,
vital if possible at all.
I'm not sure. Like, even in my own, like, I have 2 stepkids. I did take them to some key events as along the way, but I don't think necessarily I thought about, let's go on a mission trip together. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, life-changing for me, I know, and it was foundational for everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by the time you're 16, so you're 26.
Yeah.
So 16 is when you started How to Life, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So you start How to Life. Was it called How to Life at the beginning?
Yeah.
Always called
before, so the Lord put it on my heart, and for a few years we'd been working up toward this sort of point. Like my dad and mom and I had like brainstormed ideas for maybe doing something more for our community, some Jesus type of thing. I'd been leading Bible clubs for many years.
And this is in Arkansas.
In Arkansas, in my hometown in northern Arkansas.
Where Walmart is, right?
Yeah. About an hour and a half from Walmart's HQ and all that. But as a 14, 15, even younger teen, I started Bible clubs in my junior high school and in the high school too. And
secular, not Christian schools, right?
Yeah, public schools
Okay.
in Arkansas, and but with quite a few Christian kids who go. And the junior high clubs were actually quite impactful. We would do those before school, like Thursday morning in the choir room, because I was in the choir program, and the choir room was great. Little mini auditorium to have a Bible club. It was a great place.
Wait. Let's not let this moment pass. You were singing at school?
Oh, yeah. And you've already commented about my voice. I was a bass, too.
Oh, you were a bass in middle school?
Yes.
I feel like there's so many jokes I'd like
This
to
is
go down.
called
I'm not going to go down that road.
A hard tangent. But I will be happy to talk about my band and choir career.
Is there audio somewhere of you singing?
Oh, there's all sorts of stuff. We got when I was younger.
Can you make a note for me to text Lisa to see if I can get my hands on some middle school audio?
There's video of me singing before my voice changed too. So if you wanna hear tenor 1 Jordan, that's a thing from 7th grade and before, and then
tenor 1.
But
hilarious.
There's a whole clip of me singing a solo.
All my life has been a series of doors in my face. Then suddenly I bump into you.
I was thinking the same thing, because like, I've been searching my whole life to find my own place. Maybe it's the party talking or the chocolate fondue.
I don't cringe at myself as a child or a teen for the most part. There's some things like, okay, I'm clearly young, but
I mean, I watch.
You're not gonna.
I'm friends
get
with
me.
your mom, and if my mom was loose on Instagram releasing all my stuff, I'd be mortified. Like the way she puts you out there on the beach, topless, and
Whoa.
like as a little kid running around. I'm like, oh man,
this is not too much of a thing.
If my mom did that to me, I would be like, oh my god.
I think Tom is making some of that up, but it's steeped in truth, steeped in some truth.
I don't think that's a complete myth. I'm scarred from some. No, I'm just kidding.
Scarred?
No, I'm not.
Oh
scarred.
dear. Oh dear.
No, but I'm just saying. My mom.
I
and
believe
your mom
in modesty. I don't post shirtless pics on the internet, Tom.
You were
don't
a
want to cause
kid.
people to stumble.
You were a kid. You were like a real young kid. These like baby pictures on the beach.
Wow.
But your mom puts it out there. I think, man, if my mom was doing that, I would be so mad at her. I would be so mad. So you're a good sport.
Yeah. So, anyways, young teen Jordan helped start some Bible clubs that we did in the choir room.
Okay, let's ask about the Bible clubs because actually I'm curious about this because I do middle school and high school. What do you like? We've launched alphas at high schools.
Sure.
Middle school level for alpha is a little young. Like, I mean, the youth series for middle school is kind of cool, but the maturity level to lead at middle school is a little off. So, what is it? What did effective middle school club look like?
It looked very similar to some of the elements of what How to Life events look like now, but just bottled up in toward like for stuff you could do on a Thursday morning. But we would. There were weeks where we would. Just go through different verses in the Bible, and I'd prepare a content message and share with the people there. And,
you were an old man even in middle school. That's crazy.
And would share encouraging talks and And we'd have anywhere from usually 15 to 25 at like the peak.
Wow.
I think our largest ever, we had like 40 people come to that. And it was strictly a pretty discipleship oriented and also evangelism oriented Bible club where we preached the gospel and some kids responded even in junior high. But come high school time, this is important to understanding where my mind was at with launching HowToLife. I knew that people weren't coming to the Bible club. I was like, you're a Christian kid. Why aren't you coming to the Bible club? And they're like, because, well, first off, we couldn't do before school, really. That was harder in high school, and people had things before school.
Gotcha.
So we didn't want to do a before school thing. So we did a lunchtime Bible study, and like 6 people would come. And I mean, faithful 6 people, and I'm grateful to them coming and did the same thing, just shared, and people would come. But eventually I'm like, we need to like do something that'll really bring an impact to the community. And so just a few things happened. I got inspired that I was a part of like a cohort with people from other high schools in my area for just like a community secular leadership gathering. Yeah, the Youth Leadership Academy in my town. That exposed me to other leader kids from the region, half of whom were believers. And then that crossed with going to an event where I learned from some other people who had done a student-led kind of worship event in ministry type of night. And that crossed with knowing we wanted to maybe do something, but didn't want to do it when I was a sophomore, just because when you're 15, it's kind of hard to lead for your whole high school, I think. But when I turned 16, was a junior in high school, had a year and a half left of high school, some of those experiences happening, had just spent the summer doing the Native America ministry with my grandpa for a few weeks out west. And like all that was like, this feels like this is the time to do something more. And I convened some people and early on, we quickly had the vision, like we're going to do student-led youth rally. That was the name of this until the December 2014 meeting at my house where we had about a month of planning student-led youth rally, just generic. And then that December meeting was when one of my friends was writing down how to live your life when we were brainstorming names. And then we're just like, how to life. He like accidentally wrote how to life. We're like, that's it. How to life. That's the name. And we love that name because what is how to life? Who is how to life? The answer of how to live your life is Jesus. And it's a great buildup toward the gospel message because people want to know, how do I live life? And it's not grammatically correct. We know that. And sometimes some adults and friends are just like, that doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be how to live. But how to life it was.
No,
and
I mean, I
it stuck for 10 years and crossing cultures.
No, it sounds good. No, it does sound good.
And we feel like the Lord just plopped that name in our lap at that time.
Good.
And we are very grateful that we didn't have to like rename and rebrand at least the core name. We did not call the first event HowToLife Movement. It was just a HowToLife student-led youth rally. And then we started calling them HowToLife student-led events, dropped the word rally for event, and did officially start calling it the HowToLife Movement just like 2 months after the first event. Once we knew this was going to, hopefully, Lord willing, spread to more places, we called it Movement as early as 2015. And just wanted to see where God was going with this. We didn't think we didn't set out trying to start something for 5 continents around the world. We set out with the vision of helping in our Jerusalem and Arkansas and then Missouri and then Texas and Illinois and Tennessee and then 13 states, and then 20 states, and then 5 countries, and then I think about 15 countries we're at now, and close to 200 events as of this moment in time through this movement. All glory to God. A lot of young people have come to Christ, a lot of young leaders who've been trained and empowered and stepped up, and it's been an incredible journey.
Okay, almost 200 events. How many young people do you think that 200 events is represented in that? How many young people?
Yeah, over 35,000 people over time, which, I mean, that'd fill in a baseball stadium, that'd fill Fenway Park. But
yeah, that's a lot of young people.
Yeah. And
Crazy.
some are repeat attenders, but
but I mean, I'm just saying.
It would fill Fenway Park.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's crazy. That's very interesting. I never actually thought about it from that perspective.
And about 3,000 plus 3,500 commitments to Christ, depending on how that looks.
3,000. Yeah, that's on par.
Over 3,000. Yeah.
I mean, 10%.
Mhm,
That's Billy Graham's statistic. There,
Mhm,
10% attendance. So you're right in there with the pocket with all the other
Sure,
evangelists.
sure,
Pretty
sure.
good. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so let's 10 to 15% kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Okay, so I know I'm well versed in the HowToLife, story from a generic telling of it. So I don't really want to do any of that stuff.
Sure,
again.
sure.
It's out there. If you're excited, you can go
Yeah, it's
watch.
on a lot of places.
And not to mention, you have your own podcast called the
Gen Z Today podcast.
Gen Z Today, and there's a lot of good stuff there and a lot of good young voices there to hear as well. Even the archive stuff is really good. But I kind of am thinking about like the makings of a movement, because it's rare. I know a few movement leaders. People slap movement on the name of their organization all the time. And we've actually had interesting conversations.
That's not just a new thing either.
Movement, right.
100 plus years ago, student volunteer movement, they used that in 1800s. So it's a good timeless word, but it does get slapped on everything. Yes.
It gets slapped on things. And there's a difference between an actual movement and then organizationally, I put the name movement as part of the name of my company or whatever.
Sure.
And there's definitely a difference in that. And you are definitely stewarding a movement right now. And so I'm interested about, because people have never really thought about making a movement.
Yeah.
Things go into making a movement. I mean, can you really call one event a movement? Probably not. I mean, I suppose if it's a sustained movement for many, many days and weeks, like we used to see in some of the evangelism crusades in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
That's cool. And maybe we can call that a movement. But I think movements are, obviously it's in the name. It's things are moving around. It's kind of organic. You can't fully control it. But so like, the results vary. So, like, I'm thinking about the stewardship of a movement. So, all right, I'm doing like three things in my mind. Let's go with step one. Okay, you're a high school kid. You get through the first event. 700 people come or whatever, and 10% come to Christ or whatever that number was. You get through that first event, and you're like, we should do it again.
Yeah.
When I was at your age and I said we should do it again, we just did the event again the next year. That's what we should do it again meant. What made your brain go, we should do it again in this place, and this place? Or however that, what was that next step before, like, it starts gaining traction and it's doing it on its own? Like, you have this thought, I do an event, I get through that event, young Jordan says, let's do 2 events. Or what? What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of the conversations, and like my dad is a very pioneering person with the way he thinks. It's his thinking growth and thinking how can we expand and grow and scale things, and seeing even with my grandpa's ministries, really unique work with Native America, like everything they do is spurring on different, I mean, they take a team to do outreaches, but they're mobile, they're doing things in different places. And and now early on, what was unique about HowToLife as a ministry was that we didn't set out with, all right, we have like this cool team and we're going to go to all these places now. We wanted to, even when I was in high school, we wanted to help the other high school students from neighboring cities, and starting with Branson, Missouri, known more so as a famous popular little tourist town in the Ozarks in the middle of the U.S. But Branson has people who live there, and a comparable, similar population to my town. It made sense, what if we could maybe do something there? What if we could do something in Mountain Home, Arkansas, kind of our rival town, an hour to the east, and rather than just my town in Harrison, Arkansas. And then in the Northwest Arkansas, we kind of threw in as this, it'd be amazing if we could see something happen there, because that's the closest big metro area to where I lived. That's where Walmart HQ is. So we had the vision was, for that first event that we did, we invited people people came from Branson.
Oh, really?
And Mountain Home.
You were already thinking scale before you even got to the first event?
we got a lot of momentum going for the first event.
Wow.
And that allowed us in the last month to be creative enough to where, because again, these days we're planning many events all at the same time. Back then we had one project, HowToLife, in my town, And we made visits, and because initially I think I initially set out wanting to recruit churches and youth groups to travel from like 30 minutes and an hour away
I see.
to see if the first event could have been even bigger. I think was part of the logic. And early on they said, this sounds awesome. We'd love to be there, but don't think it's logistically possible to bus 100 kids from this Baptist church in Mountain Home to Arkansas, but we'd love to do something like this here. And they played on the rival stuff too, because Mountain Home's our rival school that we always play. And they're like, and of course, anything Harrison does, we've got to do better. And like, yes. And that ended up being the momentum that, and people came, and then that planted the seed in their mind. And then from there, that started the process that eventually took a few months and some visits for me to their towns. And we went to Chick-fil-A and some random Mexican restaurant in Mountain Home and different places where we sat down and had kind of vision meetings saying, do we want to actually do this?
Okay, so you, while leading the first event, were seeding into 3 or 4 other high school areas that you had already pre-thought, I'd love to see the gospel.
Initially with intent to help make that first event as effective and thorough as possible, but also in the back of our mind thinking maybe this could spur on something for those areas once the dust settles from this first campaign.
Interesting. So event number 2 was in this
Missouri, Branson.
What was it? The competing school or without?
No, that was the town closer, but just north of the border, Branson, Missouri, and then the competing school, and then we did a second event in my town. So we did do like the sequel for the Harrison, Arkansas team, and then Mountain Home's the rival school, and they were the 4th event.
Oh wow! So it took 4 times to get there. All right. So
and then we had a 5th one. The first school year was just the first, and then the next school year was 4 events around the region.
4 in the next school year.
I did half days at my high school and basically was full timing with HowToLife as a 17-year-old.
Amazing. So you were hustling and grinding.
That was pretty much.
If we were talking
case.
about like opening McDonald's, you'd be really wealthy by now. It's not even out of high school yet, you know?
Sure.
Franchising all over the place. But you're not motivated for the money. This ain't a health and wealth podcast.
No. I my heart back then and still to this day is realizing that if we don't do something now, there's a whole nother class of high school seniors that are going to graduate and move on into life. And if we could maybe do something to get the gospel in front of them in a context that might reach them or minister to them, we should do whatever we can to give them that opportunity. And I know I had friends who were not believers or nominal believers who came to that first event, and some of them did come to Christ, others didn't, but it still inspired them, and everyone at my school heard about it. I had friends who came up to me later, and one friend I really wanted to have come to that event, he said, I asked him, like, because I'd been inviting them all along, I'm like, and this friend was agnostic, atheist, and I'm like, are you going to come to the event? It's tomorrow night. And he said, Jordan, I'd love to. I just don't think it's my cup of tea, and this is a pretty big cup of tea. And I'm like, okay. But he respected it so much, though, because he was a mobilizer type of person himself. And
interesting.
So I've never forgotten that. And guys like him, even though he didn't come, are part of the reason why we started this whole thing and still have this thing.
So in the early days, what was the draw? Every event has to have a draw. Whether it's you've got a certain group of cool kids coming, you've got a certain talent coming, maybe there's a certain kind of giveaway. It's not necessarily your reason why, but you've got some incentive to get butts in seats. So in the early days, what was that incentive that got such great attendance out of your early events?
We just drove it like a good old-fashioned marketing campaign with buzz, but there was also prayer going into it. There was also intentional youth pastor networking. So it wasn't all just like we did one thing. It was we did all the things you're supposed to do really intentionally. And at my school, whether it was, I think it was legal, but like church and state stuff's interesting. But like we were able to put posters up in the hallways of our high school, and you might not be able to do that in some New England schools. You might be able to somewhere. I'm sure you can. And
no, you are.
You just have to go through the loops and do all that and sit down with the principal. But it's more legal than you'd think if other legal clubs can. And just sometimes you have to link up and all that. But but our school, we didn't have to fight to do it. They just said, yeah, you can put them up. So we put them up all over the school, like everywhere. And everyone knew it was happening. We also ordered 200 T-shirts that we just saturated the schools. I mean, one of my choir practices, we had 35 people in the choir. 12 of the kids were wearing HowToLife shirts.
Wow.
Basically, the Christian kids, or the kind of Christian kids, were wearing the shirts. And we gave the shirts to anyone. We gave them to the popular kids, the kids who might not have fully been believers.
So they were given away. They weren't sold.
No, they were marketing budget. We gave them away, and people wore them, and that all culminated, and then that crossed with the churches bringing their youth, ended up being a really incredible event. And then there's something about doing events in small towns in the Bible Belt of the U.S. that people just kind of do like to rally a little bit more than in a suburb. Suburbs have been much harder for us in the U.S. We have had some success, especially in like the Twin Cities in Minnesota. They've rallied a bit better there for this, but sometimes our stronger HowToLife events are the ones either in small towns or the ones in like a urban center in Manhattan or wherever. It can be very interesting to see how the factors all play in on demographics and location and all that.
Okay, so how many events did you get in before? I'm going to answer this question first. Ask this question first. How many events did it take before it started going international?
The international events were like number 36, 7, 8, 9, 40.
How many years into that was it now?
3.5 years.
3.5 years before
was when the first HowToLife event was March of 2015, and then Wigan, England, and Hamburg, Germany were in October, November of 2018.
That is fast.
So I was a teen when I first made 19 when I went to Europe to meet the groups.
Okay, I got goated, so I'm going to chew on that.
He is the goat.
I'm going to chew on that. I'm going to chew on that. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this.
At Genie, we're passionate about creating moments of evangelistic innovation that would shape a generation.
At Journey, we create a gospel movement that goes beyond a festival.
At G&E, we're all about finishing God's mission, because finishing his mission is what matters most.
Gen Z needs Christ, and the need for Jesus in this generation is huge.
The young people of our world need Christ. We have a solution.
God is at work. Young people around the world are working hard to share Jesus with the youth in their cities.
These are called HowToLife events.
Jesus says, make disciples, proclaim the gospel, and be Christ's witnesses. This global movement empowers believers in our generation to reach our generation.
Jesus is the hope for Gen Z.
Jesus is the hope for Gen Z.
Jesus is the hope for Gen Z. Events are currently being planned in the USA,
Canada,
Latin America, UK,
Europe, South Africa,
and Asia.
Our prayer is that we'll be able to share Christ with thousands of our peers in nations around the world.
My vision for Gen Z is that they would redirect their passion towards Jesus,
so I can bring a revival into my community.
I am so excited for HowToLife
because there's so much freedom that is found behind just knowing our Creator.
So much children today in our generation is heartbroken.
I know how this generation is so thirsty for more.
Finding Christ is the greatest thing that anyone can find.
My vision for Gen Z is that they not only know who Jesus is, but
knowing and loving Jesus in their lives.
My vision for Gen Z is encouraging kids to take their faith seriously from a younger age.
My vision for Generation Z is revival.
I am excited about HowToLife because I am passionate about reaching both my community and my friends with the gospel.
Jesus is the hope for Nottingham, England.
I 100% believe that Jesus is the hope.
Jesus is the hope.
Jesus is the hope.
Because Jesus is the only hope for Quebec.
For the Czech Republic.
For the 757 Virginia Beach area.
For Garnett, Kansas. Of New York City.
For Liverpool.
I'm from Cincinnati, and I know Jesus is the hope for our city.
For Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
Jesus is the hope for Brownsburg, Indiana.
For Patterson, New Jersey.
Jesus is the hope for Singapore. Help us reach our generation.
So how can you help? How can you join this movement? First, get involved. Don't just be an spectator, but participate. Get to know people around your area.
Whatever your gifts are, if you have a heart for this generation, we want to invite you to come and help plan these events.
The second is prayer. Prayer is vital for any move of God. So we want you to join us in praying over what God is doing in How to Life all over the world.
Thirdly, no matter what generation you're in, we want to invite you to support How to Life financially. How to Life leaders all around the world need this support. I want to challenge us as Gen Z to give to missions.
My vision for Gen Z all around the world is that they will get to have a real relationship with Jesus.
My vision for Gen Z all over the world would be to see people, every nation, tribe, and tongue coming to know the Lord.
Hi, my name is Jordan Whitmer, and I am the founder and CEO of the HowToLife Global Youth Movement. It is so amazing what God is doing through young people in nations all over the world, where there's students, leaders who are stepping up saying, I want to see my friends and my generation reached for Christ. Would you join us? Would you be a part of this effort to reach the nations of the world? God is on the move. Thank you so much. Jesus is the hope for our generation.
Okay, we're back with Jordan Whitmer, How to Life Movement, Global Domination, Megalomaniac.
Oh,
No, just
yeah.
kidding. Just kidding. I'm joking. But has a movement he's stewarding. It's not just a ministry, but it has been really just involvement from Gen Z, spreading the gospel around the world. It is actually a component of fulfilling the Great Commission. You're sending young people out to share the gospel in droves. 35,000 over 10 years hearing the gospel. How many leaders are represented in that 35,000, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's several thousand young people who have functioned as a leader with a How to Life event in some point, in some sort. So we would say that would be anyone who's been involved with a leadership team, a big team, even. Yep. These days we have core team and big team. And like How to Life New York City this past year had 100 people that would have kind of classified as big team, and big team people you don't really see until the night of the event. It's just, but we count them as a leader. So if you count and even the recent event we had in Massachusetts, I mean, we had a lot more people on the leader team who were there that night but it's sometimes just core leaders who are planning in advance. But in terms of like all total leaders who have been involved, it's thousands of student leaders who have been involved in some capacity.
My mind is blown. Wisdom and maturity beyond your years. That's why we joke and say you're 88. But I mean, it's like you've been on mission since you were old enough to complete a thought in your head. So it's just amazing. All right, so let's rewind back again, because I told you I had like 3 tracks going, and I followed one track out a little bit.
Track number 2, here we go.
Yep, but I want to rewind back again because, okay, you go from one event, year 1. Did you say 4 or 5 the next year?
The first year was 1, second year was 4, third year was 9,
and
then 20.
That's crazy.
Or 16, something like that.
That's crazy. All right, so in terms of multiplication, and you do have premeditated thoughts on this, and this is where I'm like irritated that you think these thoughts and I don't, because I think expansive and I think multiplication. Maybe I thought too much addition and not enough multiplication in my tenure, my 20 years of doing things. Maybe I thought my multiplier wasn't high enough. Maybe I wasn't doing exponents, and you've always been playing the exponent game, and I've just been like, let me add one more and then one more. I don't know how I count.
Sure.
But my point is, and this could be a control freak issue on my side, and this is where I distinguish between movement and organization, because an organization is very structured, very hands-on, and I am a very hands-on, structured person. So things probably don't grow too fast beyond me because I want to have my hand on it to make sure it's going the right way. Movement's a little more organism-like, so you can't really control the growth, but you have some intentionality in it. So now I'm like going, okay, to go from 1 to 4 the next year, you can kind of put your hand on it, but from 4 to what did you say? 20 was it?
9 was the third year.
Okay, 9,
and then 20 was the fourth year.
Okay, all right. So from 1 to 4, manageable. 4 to 9, not manageable. I was growing mentor programs, and I went from 1 to 2, 2 to 4. and then pandemic.
Sure.
And I was building teams on campuses to serve young people.
Sure.
And that took a tremendous amount of force to go from 1 to 2, 2 to 4.
Yeah.
For those teams serving schools. So I've done the building cross campus game a little bit.
Yeah.
And the amount of force it took on my back to do that was astronomical. So when you talk about 4 schools, like teams of mentors serving in schools, we're probably talking almost 60, 70 volunteers who are working for free at these schools.
Sure.
So it's a good chunk of people working different districts, different states. And I know what that took. And like a lot of my gray hair, it started then. Like the amount of force and the amount of energy I had to find to motivate people to sign up for a year to do this task.
Sure.
I know what that takes, and it's a lot. So like I'm going, obviously if I was younger, okay, maybe I would have had more youthful energy to do that. And you started at a good time where all that energy was abounding. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. But when you're like multiplying out 1 to 4, 4 to 9, how much intentionality, how much energy did it physically take? Like, was I just doing it all wrong, I guess, is the question. Like, you can't answer that for me, but you can tell me how much pressure you're applying and how much guidance. Because how much guidance could you give as a kid?
Sure. The amount of effort that I like personally put into every How to Life event started here and has progressively been less and less and less. But that's because we've been working to build systems and teams and structures.
Now you're talking about over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Yeah,
but this,
I
even
know,
early on,
really? Okay.
was kind of the way that it was. The best I could describe year 3, the year of 9 events, is that 4 of those 9 were repeat groups. It was all the groups we did that second year, fielded a team the next year.
Same kind of leaders, or were leaders
Well,
swapping?
we intentionally helped make sure there was a succession plan for every one of those, that a new leader stepped up. We gave them the opportunity. They applied. They stepped into the role.
Oh, they had to apply to do it.
Kind of. It was informal process, formal, depended on the group in the area and what was needed. But so there were 5 new groups that year, and they were clustered. So 2 of those new groups were in Illinois. 1 was in Memphis, Tennessee, and then 2 were in Texas. And early on, I would just coach them all myself over the phone and make visits. I would drive to them, fly to them. I did. Some people wonder if I went to college. I did. I have my bachelor's degree from Liberty, which I did during that whole season early on. And finished at age.
How are you finding these kids though in other places?
Yeah, people reached out through. Well, early on it was less of people reaching out on Instagram. That's what it became kind of more in year 4, was the Instagram leads. Early on, year 3 was actually kind of this hybrid zone where it was friends of my dad on Facebook who messaged him saying, "It's awesome what Jordan and his friends are doing. We need this in suburbs of Illinois. We need this in Memphis, Tennessee."
So what did you physically do? Like, there's a step in there.
Road trip, go visit them.
But like, if it's friends of dad, it's the wrong demographic, because I've done that for you.
Friends of dad who have like really strong students that they had lined up.
Gotcha.
And then those students, I mean, they had to accept, like, do you want to do this? And they did. And
Gotcha.
Texas, the first event there was a ministry friend of my grandpa's and the family who was like, we need to get this to Texas, because he personally went and networked the students, which was very interesting, seeing this baby boomer ministry leader go, and he directly found the students. He directly found church leaders and directly got funding for it.
Oh, wow.
And I traveled there as a 17-year-old. He just drove me around the town in Texas and
did
all that.
An adult did that.
Like he kind of took me around, and then I got to work in those areas. And it was things like that I wish more groups played out like that. That was a special early era. But then all of that turned into a story where after that year, we're saying this has had 14 events. And then there were some early content creator people named too early on. It was the first major one was Emma May, used to be Jenkins, now McDaniel. She was a part of our first event we did in Bentonville, Arkansas. And she's a very influential content creator long before TikTok. Still don't think she has TikTok to this day, but because she
So
was
it's
Instagram
always,
and YouTube.
So it's always been there. It's not like there was an era where that became a thing.
Well, she was the first, and then eventually our mutual friend Kirby, we became friends with. I met her in 2017, so pretty early on as well. But the two of them, like sometimes we'd do some content together, and it wasn't like super aggressive promo, but they were willing to share about this How to Life youth movement to their followers, and that led to people. That's how in year 4, places like Alabama and Georgia and Colorado and stuff started working out, and we just started really pressing into Instagram. We also started sharing at a key Christian camp in Missouri, which we're actually sharing at again this summer, which is awesome. But back then we shared, and that led to some groups, our first groups in Kansas and Colorado. And
you keep going to expansive because that's the way you think. But I need
snowballing.
But I want to slow that down because all of that stuff from an external standpoint, it's like, oh wow, success.
Sure, but how did the snowball?
Yeah. So I want you to tell me, and I don't know if anybody's ever asked you this question before.
Oh boy.
But what are the 5? Let's pick 5. The 5 things you do to initiate with students before you are comfortable taking your hands off of it and saying, okay, it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, what's so important, and especially in the midst of talking growth, stats, all this stuff, and we need to talk about that because it's all referring to spiritual impact. But this is a movement of the Lord, obviously, and I'm not saying that just to say that. I wake up every morning grateful knowing that this is something that the Lord has entrusted to me and to us and to the young people that are in leadership. And we want to do the best that we can to serve our generation, which right now is Gen Z, and then the next generation after us, Gen Alpha, soon coming up. Josiah's almost Gen Alpha. He's a little older than Gen Alpha, but 3
years.
Barely Gen Z. He's Josiah and I are the bookends of Gen Z.
Yeah.
And when it comes to young people today, we're wanting to help young people reach our generation. I say one of my key just life themes is living and leading for Jesus as members of the next generation, and helping young people make a difference for Christ sometimes when they're not sure how. And we find that there's not tons, but there's more than people realize. Young Christians who love the Lord, they want to make a difference for Christ, but sometimes they're just not sure how and what that looks like. Mm-hmm. And that's why there've been we have had now close to 200 How to Life events because of close to 200 young people, leaders who, similar to my story when I was 16, they are not content with seeing their community stay the way that it is spiritually. They want to see growth and impact in the gospel go forth in their city, in their region. And those people already have an existing burden. So I did not convince them or persuade them and say, you should maybe do something in your community. I've spoken to groups like that, and it falls flat sometimes, and it's like pulling teeth. It is not fun at all. But it truly, honestly, this is one of the ways I see the Lord at work more than anything is seeing how God has prepared people ahead of time. I've had people say, this is crazy. I was praying about something like this a week ago, and then I learned about How to Life like the next day. And like things like that have happened where it's a supernatural thing where young people get a burden placed on their heart. Sometimes they've grown up as a believer in a Christian family. Sometimes they've grown up in a ministry type of orbit. Sometimes they're not really too connected with ministry stuff at all. Some of them came to Christ a year ago at their church camp. Some of them came to Christ a few years ago because of TikTok or YouTube or something. It's crazy what is the case. Okay. And then those people's hearts are being prepared by the Lord ahead of time. Those people, though.
So that's step 0.
Yeah. That's happening in the background, but that's essential foundation.
Step 0. Okay.
Step 1, I guess, or just the next step in that process is, the technical process is usually young people learn about us through social media, or there's a connect to social media, or maybe we meet them at a camp and then we get their contact and follow up with them. We try to bring them to a Zoom call early on, and we call those vision calls and say, this is what How to Life's all about. If you're interested in this, we'll keep working with you. Now, we've already pre-screened most people that come to a vision call. We don't invite everybody. Sometimes people just aren't ready. Sometimes people send us a message, but they're not interested in starting an event, but they might want to join an existing team or attend something in their area. Some people just want the Christian community, and that's why they reach out to us, and which is fine and good and something we are happy to help with if we can. But what usually that early process is we get to know someone, and we're vetting them both spiritually and then in terms of their leadership capability. Do they seem like they could be someone to direct a team? Do they have good people around them? The same way you're like, oh, I know Jordan must be good because he comes from good stock. I can know that a student leader is good stock. It might not be a grandparent in ministry. Sometimes they're from a ministry family, but often it's they were really discipled by an intentional, faithful local church. Gotcha. Or an intentional, faithful mentor. And we're vetting them. And if it's really sniffing spiritual maturity on someone is easier to do than some people think it. You can get a sense pretty quickly, like this person seems divinely positioned to maybe pull something off in their area like this. And when all that checks out and we pray and they pray and it seems like this makes sense, often we'll say, here's the training manual. Here's some hurdles to clear. If you can clear these hurdles, then we'll just keep going with you. So the ball really is in the student leaders' court. It's in the early things are, can you talk with your church and a couple churches in your area, try to get some interest to be a coalition behind a How to Life event? And then also, can you get just a team together? And that's kind of step one. And just like the parable of the talents, like some people take their 5 talents and turn it into 10, and others take their 1 and don't do anything with it. And so he who is faithful in small things can be faithful in greater things. So we try to give them early wins, and it's never easy, but we say How to Life planning is doable. It's very possible, and it's helping that person on that journey. And now these days, it's not just me calling and having these calls with all these early groups. We have a whole team now of global leaders, a global cabinet of How to Life staff and volunteer staff and leaders who are helping coach everywhere from Canada, U.S., Latin America, Africa, Europe, Asia. And they're the ones who do those early calls and the early vetting. And these days, I still have a big hand in the final approval of whether or not we let a group start planning and on like dates and just trying to make sure it all works out. So event dates do still kind of come back to me or at least the staff. But these days, it's usually I'll be like, hey, didn't you have a call with a group coming up? And they're like, yeah, Jordan, we just had a call with Guatemala, and they seem great, and they've got this date in mind. Is that good? And I'm like, that sounds great. Tell them to go for it. And that's kind of the era we're in now. But it's a mix of both vetting them and then taking a little bit of a chance, but and then also they have to go through a really thorough training manual and planning with with theology in there and stuff that they need to agree with and sign off on. And we have some things that if we're going to call it a How to Life event, every How to Life event has to have a gospel presentation. Otherwise, not a How to Life event. It's a good worship night maybe, but How to Life events are not meant to be a worship night alone. They're meant to be an evangelistic outreach, and ideally a place where people can bring their lost friends and they can hear the gospel. Sometimes we do get a lot of non-believers in the room to hear the gospel. Sometimes it's majority believers. Every time there's life change that happens, leaders who are inspired, people who are deeply empowered and equipped and inspired through it. But and it's different in every area, different demographics and all that. But yeah, but once all that's there, I have no problem empowering people. We really trust our local leaders. And I say I trust the church because I believe the church has discipled many young leaders. And it's not me who got like Luke, our UK leader, to the point where he is at spiritually. Yeah. His church poured into him.
Sure.
He is where he is today because of faithful people at his church who mentored him, discipled him. And now he's being a blessing to his country, continent, and the world. And we just happen to have the privilege of working with him now. And that's the beauty of discipleship in the church and how things work.
Okay, so I only got 3 steps in there. So God does something, right? And that's step 0. It's not even a step.
Sure.
Which then leads to you identifying leaders. That's what I got as your step 1. You're identifying leaders through a process like Zoom calls, vetting, blah, blah. Which then leads to step 2 is you're training those early leaders. You're putting a manual in your hands, trying to give them quick wins and forming a team and connecting with churches, which then leads to step 3, which I feel like you're kind of blowing through that pretty quick, but forming a How to Life chapter. So like that becomes a firm team.
Yes.
And it sounds like that team has to go through some kind of vetting process too. I'm reading between the lines.
Yeah. There's more nuances to it. We've got a whole checklist, the admin checklist, the event planning checklist that they got to go through the training manual. They've got to
two different kinds of training though.
Yeah.
Training for the team leader. And
Yes.
team?
We do have all of that in the manual now, and in the we have a video series, and so eventually, like the core event director is the one who runs a team. They're usually the person who first reaches out, and they're the ones who we equip to organize something. Then that event director, they are the ones also. Their early task is building out their core team and getting people to help them and to cover the different bases that are needed. So they will recruit people to be a part of the speaker team, the worship team, the key event things, and then there's also a fundraising team usually, and a church relations team, and a lot of different roles that they recruit for. And each of those sub roles do have their own video and part of the manual that those core team members are supposed to go through. We do also have like a team covenant. We want core team members to adhere to a certain level of just upright spiritual living. It's not meant to be legalism. It's meant to try to keep people from being hypocrites and double-minded with living in sin. And we don't want people to be living a double life if they're going to be on a HowToLife stage. This is important work. So there's those aspects. The key thing early on is getting their date and venue secured. And some groups figure that out instantaneously. Others have spent sadly years, trying to get those logistics to work out. On average, it usually takes several months of going back and forth with a local church in their area. And eventually, usually, we can find a local partner in an area and to host the event. It doesn't have to be at a church, but we want every HowToLife event to have at least 2 supporting partner churches is part of the process. And when all that's there, technically that's when we say, all right, you have an official HowToLife event. The date's on the calendar. You got 2 supporting churches. You got a core team of at least 5 people or so, and a big team of 15 or more people. You can have way more than that. And you're moving down that road and journey. And these days, it's not me working with the local event directors. It's the regional and continental and country staff who they're working as coordinators with the local leaders, and then we intervene. I'll help, or our global team or national staff as needed on key connecting and open doors and in all the geographies of the world that we're working in.
All right, so I think I've distilled the 5 steps now.
Okay.
I mean, this is important for me to understand.
Yeah.
You know, even in terms
this
of
is all
doors.
Transferable stuff that can be implemented in the process of 2020's campaign creating.
Well, I mean, full disclosure, I'm a HowToLife board member here. So even me understanding how it works is important, because if I understood how it works, I would have opened the doors already. But I didn't really know how much pressure to apply, when to get involved, when not to get involved.
I
mean, my instincts are good because you've let me fully infiltrate your organization.
Yeah. Tom has a full infiltration permission for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, but at the beginning, you didn't trust me that much. Like, I got to go to a retreat as a chaperone. I got put in a group chat, but I was told don't interact with anybody. Like, there was a lot of rules at the beginning. But at the same time that there were a lot of rules, I also had freedom to build relationships broadly, which is how I kind of got my start in this whole Gen Z game, because surprisingly, being the chaperone, which I hated that title, I thought, man, nothing's going to cool. Nothing.
Hey, you brought it up today, not me.
No. I want to talk about it because some kids still call me a chaperone guy. Nothing kills your cool faster than being the adult that's allowed to be there to make sure kids don't hook up in the dorms or something like that. Like that's a sucky role to have at an event. So I'm like, but within that role, the way you designed it, I did all the airport runs, which meant the back and forth, and depending on whether or not I got lost or not, the back and forth to the retreat from the airport was probably a 45-minute ride. So
yeah.
I really got to meet the who's who of How to Life on those airport runs.
Sure.
All in an afternoon.
And just who's who of Gen Z kingdom leaders, because that's kind of the crew we had at that initial gathering you were at.
But like, for example, like here's the trajectory. Someone like J.D. Caballero, who, by the way, said you haven't returned his text in a while and he wanted to talk to you.
Oh, no.
He just told me that.
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
But no, he said he's looking for you. So
sorry, JD.
But like someone like JD, I pick him up from the airport, and so I meet him in the car. I think I picked him and Jana TikToks up at the same time.
Yeah.
So I met the both of them,
Wow.
and actually I had extra time because I got lost and I went around the loop like 10 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, these kids probably think I'm trying to kidnap them because it's taking way too long to get to the
no.
event. But it gave me ample time to get to know JD.
Yeah.
Pulse 100 starts, and
Yes.
even though he's coming from How to Life,
Sure.
I put the phone call time in for him to apply and become a part of it.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know what Pulse 100 was back then, but
Sure.
But I recruited him, and then when I took this role at Global Network, he is within the first 12 kids to go to Africa with me and preach the gospel. I think in Zambia last summer. So you just watch that trajectory over years. And actually, he preached the first How to Life New London event. He preached at my winter camp up in Massachusetts. So we're talking about over a 5 or 6 year span. The trajectory, and not to mention all the other How to Life events he preached at, right?
Yeah.
So you get this trajectory of him internally within the How to Life sphere,
Sure.
doing all this amazing work, but then rocketing off into a lifestyle of missions and evangelism.
Yeah.
So many different groups and organizations.
Yeah.
And he's going to do it. He's going to be doing this life for years and years to come.
Yeah.
And that's like formation stuff that you've got going on there. And I guess the whole point of unpacking that, besides just connecting us and like how important my story is, the way the character arc for just one life, and there's so many lives just like this that just they're taking off because of the way that you empower young leaders through this 5-step process that I'm now patenting. No, but like you identify those leaders, you train those early leaders, and you help them to form a leadership team, form a chapter.
Yeah.
Which then more training goes involved, which leads to step 4, event approval. It seems like that's a pretty core.
That's the technical side of this, and
I need to know it.
Yeah.
Which then step 5, which is sort of like Jordan now is disappearing into the distance, is you've now made enough disciples who are making disciples, which is basically your staff following up with the local team to just hold their hand through it. And by then Jordan just shows up at the end to take a photo on the stage.
Sure.
Take a serious one and a silly one, and then he's off to his next city. So it sounds like that's
society will empower young people to do all sorts of things.
Okay.
The church should be able and willing to do the same to empower the next generation to step up and make a difference. It doesn't mean we give them every opportunity and just a blank check to do any and everything, but it means you can give them some sort of check, maybe financially or through connections or something to help get someone on the right track for making a difference for Christ. And it's been a privilege to be able to be a part of just a small part in the journey of so many Gen Z young people. Some were already on a great track anyways. Others, we really helped them get on a good track. Others it's been all over the place, but at the end of the day, it's the Lord working through this, and we are trying to steward what this is and trying to help get a generation on point.
And so just kind of wrapping up in closing, I want to point out that this isn't just an evangelistic movement effort. This is a youth development effort. So even as church leader, because my watchers are not Gen Z. My watchers are my donors and other church leaders who are friends with me, right? All 50 of them or 5 or however few there are. But what I'm saying is, like, they're going to look at this and go, well, we did a How to Life event once or twice. It wasn't that evangelistic. We knew all the kids there. I don't think that's fully the point. Mm-hmm. I think part of the point is putting the ball in the hands of a young person and letting them try. So from a youth development standpoint, and with the character arcs that we've talked about, which just a few in there, and previous guests. I guess the point is, look at what amazing leaders they turn out to be.
The future pastors, future business leaders, future missionaries. That they got to get a chance somehow, because if the world will give them chances to do stuff at a young age. But if they don't get that opportunity to make an impact for Christ, then they need that. It's essential and so encouraging to see.
Yeah. So so not only is there like a pattern here for multiplication, it's not accidental. It's a partnership with God, partnership with the church, partnership with the next generation.
Yes.
Which it takes a lot of trust to do that. I have a thing, but I'm going to let you be in charge of it. Like, I'm going to let you lead. That takes some trust. I'm sure there are some more stories in there, but we'll do that on another broadcast where we'll
maybe not. But
we'll get into the weeds about something that doesn't matter anymore, but was at the time seemed like it was going to break the whole ship. Because I think people learn from that too. Like, you learn from trial and error, and Nate and I talked about it in his episode, which I don't know if this one comes first or his comes first. It just depends on the way I feel.
Sure.
But like we went into the behind the scenes in the New York event, and the travail and the struggle and the stewardship weight. And some of the difficulties of just trying to get New York City to
massive.
cooperate.
It's America's largest city and the world's maybe most important city, and the enemy does not want too much Jesus growth to happen in that city. But we had 550 kids who showed up and heard the gospel, and over 108 I think responded, made a commitment to Christ.
That's amazing.
Praise God.
Praise God. Okay. So, last thing, I've known you since 22, I think, maybe even toward the end of 21, something like that. So a little over, maybe 5-year mark.
Yeah, 2021.
Yep. So we're getting there. We're getting some years in.
Well, we'll have that half decade pretty soon.
One thing that I'm noticing is every time you change cities, you change your hat.
Oh.
When you were living in Chicago. And actually, when I met you, I tried to give you a hat. And you're like, my head doesn't fit in this thing. Let me prove it to you.
It's true. It's true.
So the cranium, the brain in there that he's stewarding is quite heavy. Like, the mantle physically is heavy.
I'm a size 8 for the 2% of you that know what that even means for flat bill hats.
Yeah, but the thing is like, when I met you, you had a Chicago hat on, and you were telling me you were such a Cubs fan.
I am a Cubs fan.
But you were living in Chicago.
Yes. I wasn't living in Chicago when I first met you.
That's true. You were in Chicago hat.
Chicago, the Chicago hat was my icon logo for forever. I mean, my dad's a Cubs fan. I'm a Cubs fan. That's
and
the
now
team.
You're wearing this.
I'm wearing New York. Every time I'm around the world, you see NY hats. It is a much easier hat to wear around the world.
That's fair.
And it doesn't make you seem more American. It's kind of in that kind of logic of like, if I'm walking around Germany in this, they might not think I'm American. Because a German would wear this.
Interesting.
An African would wear this. A Mexican would wear this.
Okay, I was going to say, because the kids
New York is the most, NY is the most global. Most people that wear this don't even know who the Yankees are.
Okay, I feel better about this. Because the kids.
Now, I kind of like the Yankees. That was my mom's team and my uncle's team. And but I'm not diehard. I mean, I track them. I go to a game or two. Now I'm done there.
So the kids have actually misunderstood your intentions, because they said that you traded on the Cubs.
They can think whatever they want.
They literally ratted you out, and they're like,
I'm not sure who they is, but
I'm not going to name names. I've already done that in this episode. But what I'm going to say is that the kids, without naming names, have said, no, you sold out the Cubs. You're now pretending to be New York poser. They said you're a poser, bro.
I'm trying to keep people guessing, and although I do need to figure out who's calling me a poser.
No, but I do. I mean, I think the
bigger, thicker debate that like Nate and I talk about and the others is, am I a New Yorker? And I will say
that's exactly right.
I will say I am not out here trying to say I am a New Yorker. I don't live in Manhattan.
For the record,
I don't really want to live in Manhattan.
For the record,
maybe if the opportunity arose and. I definitely don't want to live in any of the other boroughs. I really like where I've landed in New Jersey. close enough to the city to have all the amenities of the city.
He's
but
looking at the camera to say this.
But I have air
passionate
conditioning.
appeal.
We've had a heat wave of 100 degrees outside, and it was 67 in my apartment. Why? Because my building was built in 2010 when everyone else is living in buildings built in 1842.
That's fair.
So, so no, if I sacrifice that in order to have that, yeah. So also the flight connections to get out of New York all over the world better than any city in the country.
That's absolutely true.
That's what part of why I picked it, and having access to Newark Airport when it's working, which it is working. It rarely wasn't working, but is huge. So anyways, yeah, the NY hat is, you can interpret it however you like.
That's fair. But you've heard it here first, guys, that Jordan even has a strategy for the hat that he puts on his head. The crown is
everything is thought through at this point. It is.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Jordan, I bless you in Jesus' name. Thank you, Lord, for Jordan and his ministry. Thank you, Lord, for the way that he's invested in the next generation, and also for the way he's taught me to humble myself and go lower and serve the next generation. In fact, I think right now on record, I'll say I am proud to be a chaperone to Gen Z and lower. I'm proud to be a cleaner-upper after Gen Z. I'm proud to be an airport driver to Gen Z and a soccer dad, ride to events guy to Gen Z, because of what I see happening in the next generation, all largely due to Jordan peeling back the scales from my eyes as I struggled as a parent to see what good can come out of pandemic kids. I bless Gen Z, and I bless the work of HowToLife in Jesus' name, asking you, Lord, to continue to grow this movement, not just for the numbers' sake, but for the quality of your church, your bride, and all the leaders that are being multiplied around the world through Jordan's style of raising up and making disciples that make disciples. Thank you, Lord, for our friendship and our time today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tom.
Jordan. This is awesome.
Honor to be on your podcast and with you here in Connecticut. Yeah.
All right, man. Bless you.
Next week on the Gospelcast, tune in to hear our special guest, Nate Sayroon. You certainly won't want to miss it.